Isn't that exciting? Okay, we're going to do it. Whee! 1, 2, and bing, bing, bing. Bing, bing, bing. Bing, 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 bing.
Keanu Thompson. Keanu!
The host, a stand-up comic, is wearing glittery devil horns.
One is just so untoward.
That's hard to do. I'm going to create the energy with my dancing. Harry. I love it. Can't get enough. We can't, Michaeline. Look.
Just waiting for this vodka to kick in.
Hello, everyone. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you feel me? Welcome to Keanu Live. You can see and hear me, right? Can't you? Can't you? We'll double check. We always like to double check. Yes, you can. Hi, darlings. Hi. Tonight we have a rebel-rousing episode. It's a special Friday night Keanu Live with Judge Herb Dodell.
Yay!
Yes, of course. Of course. We love fanfare. Herb Dodell. Fair fan. Fanfare. Fair fan. We're very excited. We cannot wait. We cannot wait. Let me make sure. Lainey just texted me. No problem. Okay, perfect. He will be here in just a few minutes. I thought I would just kvetch with you for just about 5 minutes before we get the dearest, the incomparable judge. He spent years as an attorney in the trench, and he's also spent years as a judge at the bench. You're going to love him. So what we're going to do is I will put in the call-in number, and you can call in. He will give you free legal advice if you need it. Isn't that exciting? So if you have any legal questions, I know a few people that may have some. Actually, I wasn't maybe going to ask him about his thoughts on the parable of the toe, but maybe I will, since there's breaking news that Rakeda pled guilty today, which good for him. Good, honestly. So that is actually very good news. But we are going to get into it. I want to talk about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Blake Lively's husband. If you don't know what's going on there, it's everywhere. You should know. But I'm gonna get his thoughts on that. I have some questions about his book. I have some questions about his life, and we're gonna get into it. So everybody, light up a cigarette or whatever your oral fixation is. Crack a White Claw and buckle the fuck in, because we have Judge Herb Dodell. I'm excited. I'm getting everyone ready and stoked for him. It's going to be so exciting. Herb Dodell. Oh my God, we can't. He'll be here in just a moment. But first, for everyone here right now, 100 million Kiki bucks for you. And 3 Kiki coins. I'll be modest.
Wow.
I hate being modest. I hate it. I'm just kidding. I'll do something. 20 million Kiki coins for you.
Wow.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, McGuinevere. Hi, Diana Rosa. Oh my gosh, you guys are so great. Love seeing you put Quad in his place earlier. Oh my God, don't get me started. Yeah. Why don't you wheel that back, Quad? It was his first guest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're lucky. Yes, this is Keanu Live. We don't have Michaeline tonight. She's a busy lady. If we need her, if we call upon her, she can always grace us with her presence. Before the judge gets here, I have breaking news. What's so exciting? what's more exciting than if you watch this program, you know, I found a new dog for my dad because he wanted a new pug as his other pug passed on. And we have been talking about, so we've procured the pug. Okay. But I got a new photo of him today, and I fly to South Carolina in February to go and pick him up with my dad. And his name is Jim. We named him that, and his middle name is Ham. But I got the cutest photo of him because before all of the photos were ridiculous. He didn't even look like he looked neither animal or being of any sort. You really couldn't tell what he was, but I knew he'd be cute. I knew he'd be cute, so I have to show him to you. Okay, hang on one second. You're gonna just love it. Just a little fun before the judge gets here. Oh my gosh, you're just gonna die. Look at him. Look at him. I cannot wait to squish him. I love him so much already. There's Jim. There's our Jim. Isn't he adorable? That's enough. Poor Jim Ham. He doesn't, I don't want to, it's like putting your children on the screen or something, might not be right. Hi, everyone. Yes. And if you want to know a little bit about Judge Herb Dodell, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. But also, yeah, God, I have so many questions. I'm going to go ahead and put in the call-in number. Now, don't call yet. Don't call until he gets here, obviously, because I can't answer your legal questions. But when the time comes, if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to call on in. Bing, 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 bing. Banners, where are you? Wait, where is my call-in number? Mm, mm, mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm? Oh, God. Where is it? Uh-huh. Aha. There it is. I know it says call now, but don't. Wait till the judge is here. Wait till the honorable judge is here, all right? Okay, it's going to be so exciting. Going to be so, so exciting. I'll call in just to say hi before he gets here. Do you have any legal questions? No, you couldn't do anything wrong. You may call in. There's a lot going on. I've been wanting to talk about the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case for a long time, and this seems like the perfect time to do it. A little bit about the judge. About Judge Herb Dodell. For more than half a century, Judge Herb Dodell has served as both a successful attorney in the trench and as a Superior Court judge pro tem on the bench, having presided over more than 10,000 cases. 10,000 of them. I have so many questions. Did you ever you're like, God, I just hate this guy. I want to give him a worse punishment, or I love everyone. I want to give him that's probably not how judgment, being a judge, works. Does he ever feel like, it was too harsh or too not harsh? As a lawyer, he has tried more than 100 jury trials, civil and criminal, in both state and federal courts, and has successfully argued before the California Supreme Court. For the people, the purpose of the show, and this is his podcast. It's not a podcast. I think it's on the radio, and it's a podcast. The purpose of the show is to help people navigate the legal system. It provides information as to how the legal system really works. You know what? A lot of people I know could have really used this man. A lot of people I know really could use it now. I could have used it when I had an alcohol ticket for underage drinking. I got 2 of them. Could have used his legal advice. Nothing really happens to you when you have an underage drinking ticket, other than it makes you scared. I think we should work to get it the drinking age lowered. It illustrates the principles with real cases and provides guidelines for people who are in the system or about to be involved in it, including small claims, restraining orders, landlord/tenant, criminal and general civil litigation. It provides the answers to such questions as, what do I do if? God, call in if you're having an issue. But don't incriminate yourself, I guess. Very interesting. He's been on Eugene's show many, many a time. And they always have a fun time. So I thought, I gotta get him on my program. And he always plays along with Eugene. He is. He's so good. I don't know why. He'll be like, I don't want to get political. Gino's like, but how do you feel? He's like, I don't want to get political. He's like, what about a pink blanket? He's like, okay, maybe if it weren't pink. Okay. Subscribe to Eugene's Patreon. Listen to him on Rumble. You know him.
He's gay, but he has a special connection to classical music. There's many things that are interesting about him.
So he should be here in just a few moments. I am positive of it. But yes, today we're gonna definitely go through. If you don't know a little bit about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case, it just goes on and on. I guess I could read you a little bit of this while we wait on him, just to get us all up to what you need to know. I won't read it to you, but I'll hit the highlights. This is what you need to know. Blake Lively is the wife of, why is his name escaping me? Deadpool. Why is his name escaping me? Deadpool. Blake Lively's husband. Ryan Reynolds. Blake Lively is a known Blake Lively has been a sort of known bully for a long time, but now we're sort of thinking that maybe that Ryan Reynolds is sort of controlling, and Blake Lively put out this lawsuit against the director of the movie that she was in. It's I hated the movie, but maybe because I was poisoned by all of this. It's called It Ends With Us. And now they have dueling lawsuits. It's the biggest thing since Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, honestly. It really is. It goes on and on. I switched sides like 2 to 3 times already. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but yeah, Ryan Reynolds is involved. Blake Lively was in the movie with directed by Justin Baldoni. Justin Baldoni is a podcast host, purveyor of like women's rights, which with a man bun, which is kind of funny. And but really what he says, it can come off as sort of disingenuous, but he's typically right on the subject. And Blake has been kind of smeared in the media, but it's not just since the movie came out. She's always had sort of a prickly disposition. The movie is about domestic violence, right? But when she was promoting it, she was also promoting her hair care line and saying, take your girls to see the movie, wear your florals, which also it could be the case of she said that because her last name in the film is Bloom. So there's so much going on with it. But after all of these horrific videos of Blake Lively just being mean to news reporters and, everywhere in the press, which I sort of stuck up for her for, because you don't know what's going on with a person that day. You don't know. And the media sort of, frames things in a certain way. Fuck, I've been like I'm in the media. But I've been, framed in a certain way many a time just from a small section of like something I said or something when I was speaking with somebody in a public sphere. So I sort of was with her on that, but Justin really had nothing to do with that, except his PR team. For a time, she said they did a smear campaign against me. He's like, these things were all already out there. Not to mention the fact Justin was the director of this film. Blake and Ryan had a little bit too much power in the film because he was just trying to be a nice guy, it seems like. In Blake's court case, she said that Baldoni sexually harassed her. She said that he would come into her trailer while she was pumping her breast milk and all sorts of things. There was no intimacy coordinator on the set, that there was no blah, blah, blah. When it comes out that Baldoni then, he's like, this is not how it happened. You told me I'm pumping in my trailer. Do you want to come run lines? Please come run lines with me. Then he came in. Baldoni then did a countersuit and he came with receipts, which tells me, I'm like, what is going on with this? That is in a very, very silly nutshell what I can tell you about it right now. But we are going to get into it because who's better to ask than the dearest Judge Herb Dodell, right? Right? Am I right? Yes, I am. I'm going to remove that right now because devices are not connected. So Judge Herb Dodell, did I say Podell? Judge is here. However, devices are not connected. Oh, he's back. He's here now. Okay. So I am going to bring him in just one moment. Sorry, I was talking about Blake Lively. Zul McCool, Amber Heard is a pretty lady, but I would never want to date a woman that would crap on my side of my bed. She is pretty. Again, I may be the only one that ever kind of defended her, and I got shit on for it all the time. And I love Johnny Depp, but this, I think, is the new Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. They are not lovers, but it's that juicy and that salacious and that confusing. So we're going to talk about it. But first, we're going to talk about, we have to hear about Herb Dodell. He is an accomplished lawyer and an accomplished judge. And he is nice enough to put up with my dearest husband whenever he goes on his show. So I know he has a sense of humor. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him in. Are you guys excited? Because I am. 1, 2, and 3. Hello, everyone. Hi, can you hear us? Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. We had a hard time making the connection with your link. That's why the delay.
Oh, no.
But I'm good, thanks. And I actually met you on your husband's show.
Yes,
and I
that's
made a comment at how pretty you were. And somebody said, well, you were a podcast. I said, why not?
Yes,
it's 6 o'clock here in California. And why not?
Yes, I'm so glad you're on California time because, yes, I tend to do these late. So, great. So I hope I'm not interrupting dinner time or anything for you.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Soon.
I won't keep you like for the entire evening. I tend to get to things a little bit more succinctly and quicklier than Eugene would. Yes, quicker than Eugene would. So where are you in California?
I'm actually just to the east of Malibu.
How is everything there? Are you okay with all the fires and everything?
We got the alert to evacuate, and then they sent us a withdrawal of the alert, so we didn't have to move, and so we didn't. But many, many, many people have lost everything.
Yes, I know. It's terrible. And you know what else is so interesting about that? It's like people, myself included, it's easy to make fun of celebrities online going, one of my homes burned to the ground. No one should ever have to watch that on the news. I'm like, Paris, you're a Hilton. Even if all 8 of your homes burned down, you'd have a Hilton to go to. but it's still devastating. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy for people to make a joke of it, but I can't imagine, right?
Well, it's going to be a very active, I guess you call it litigation over the fires. One called the Eaton Fire, which is Pasadena, Altadena, and the other, which is Malibu. And they have not yet determined the cause, although there's been some speculation as to the Eaton fire was caused by Pacific Gas and Electric. I have no evidence to support that. It's just somebody told me that.
Right.
And in Malibu, it's a very interesting legal issue that actually I had dealt with once before. Too complicated to talk about today, but there's going to be insured people and people who are not insured. People who are not insured have no place to go except against the city, the county, the state, etc. And I know there are law firms that are taking those cases for the uninsured people. And the people that are insured, there's going to be technical defenses, etc. In fact, for 40 years, actually, before I went on the bench, I handled fire and casualty cases on both sides. So it's a subject that I have great familiarity with. And I can see, I've read some of the policies now that I'm retired from the bench. I read some of the policies and I could see the arguments that are going to be made by the insurance companies. They are going to be financially devastated because of the amount of the damages and the limited reserves that they have to pay those damages. The likelihood is they're going to end up at the bankruptcy court and work out something. Although with the insurance companies, depending on what company is involved, there are processes that are not necessarily involving a lawsuit where you get your claims settled faster, less expensive, and with basically very limited rights of appeal. And I handle those cases as a private lawyer and even some that were on the bench. But it's going to be a very active time. People have lost more than just the physical house.
Oh, everything.
Things that are irreplaceable. That is an emotional element that you may be able to recover that in a case against your insurance company, but on the other cases, it's unlikely that those damages would ever be recovered. One of a kind of things, your grandma's necklace, things like that.
Yep.
Gone.
Gino's cat, that would just be terrible. I'm just kidding. She's just a monster. I'm just joking. But everybody from an outside perspective can make fun of, celebrities or what have you, but no one is actually in their heart of hearts, I would at least hope, making fun. There are things, of course, insurance companies, they cannot replace, right. Yes, your grandma's necklace. If you're Italian, you probably have your hope chest, your grandma's hope chest, and your great grandmother's hope chest. That shit never comes back. Are you a California native?
I'm a native of upstate New York.
Oh, okay. You
In
sound
fact, I have a license to practice in New York, and I don't think I've ever used it.
Really?
No.
How long have you been in California?
I got here 1965.
1960. Oh, so you've been there forever. Well, tell me, doesn't it seem like, at least in Malibu, why does this happen every single year with the fires? Like, one year it was a gender reveal party, wasn't it? That caused a massive wildfire. What is your take on why you think this happens and how it can be, mitigated?
Well, I did read that the party owning the parcels, and they may be different people based on dedications of property by individual donors. So you have to see where the actual locations are. But I read that they hadn't done any maintenance in that area for 40 or 50 years. And you get into it legally now, talking in some legal terms. You get into the question of causation and duty and foreseeability.
Right.
Would the reasonable person have foreseen that this could happen? And the answer is a resounding yes, because we just had the Woolsey fires
Mhm.
3-4 years ago. In fact, we lost our roof in that fire. And
Oh my God. That must
and
have been terrifying. Jesus.
well, we were evacuated, us,
Yeah.
the dogs, my kids, everybody. We were gone for about a week, evacuated. But the point is that there are measures, including drainages and fire roads and a variety of other things that could have been done. So the question is, did they have a duty to do that? Of course they did.
Right.
And did they do it? Unlikely. I have actually a case, believe it or not, involving a
tell me.
mudslide not too long ago against the insurance company who didn't pay. And the reality is, proper drainage would have prevented that hillside from collapsing and destroying 2 homes. So I did the research on this, believe it or not,
Right.
already. So I have a fairly good feeling about where this is going. And do they have a duty? Of course they had a duty.
Right.
And will the insurance company settle? I once gave a speech, it was called "The Only Float in Town Isn't at the Rose Parade." And the reality is, the longer they keep the money and have it working for them, the worse off it is for them if they have to pay. They lose the ability to use that money, subject to, of course, some legal restrictions dealing with reserves and the like, which is a much more complicated subject.
Well, isn't it, how could it, well, here's what somebody just asked. This maybe it will answer my question. Ask, this is a question for you. Ask him if the city should be liable for damages. Is that, do you need to do like get together with your town or what have you and sue the city? How does that work?
Well, I can tell you basically from California law only. And different states have different rules and regulations. Even their codes of evidence and civil practice are going to be at a variance. But the answer to the question is yes, you can. And the rules are that you have to give the city notice under an act we have here, a statutory provision. You got to give them a certain amount of notice before you can sue them. And then they have a certain amount of days.
I would like you to notice me. I'm going to sue you in a while.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated because you have to fill out a form. And the
it's like
form
Michael Scott saying, I declare bankruptcy. Like, well, you gotta write it down, send us a letter, right?
You really don't want to be in bankruptcy court. I know I wrote my honors paper in law school on bankruptcy. So I can tell you don't want to be in that court. But the fact of the matter is the entity, whether it's the city, the state, the county, they have a limited amount of time to respond. Either deny your claim or not. And if they don't, then you can file a lawsuit. It's under the Tort Claims Act in California. That's what we basically call it. And then you can file a regular lawsuit. Damages are recoverable. There are some instances, just some, where there's something called sovereign immunity. Doesn't apply to everything, applies to some things. But that's why you need to consult with somebody who knows what the law is.
Exactly.
And I recommend people that they don't do this on their own. This is not simple. This is complicated, but understandable if you've got some kind of preview as to what you can expect.
And on your program, this is the kind of advice you give to people, isn't it?
I wrote a book on it, actually.
Yes. So, and also in your book, but you do have and it's not live. Or yes, it is. It's so you can listen to Judge Herb Dodell. It's on the radio. It's on FM Heart Media in Los Angeles, and it's also
on my website
version, right? Yeah.
It's on my website.
It's
which
on the
is
website.
DodellLaw.net. And you can play the interview that I just did the other day with an attorney who specializes in these, what they call mass torts. And that gives you a good lead in. In fact, the reason I wrote the book was I wanted to talk to the lay person and explain things as how the system works.
The book is called From the Trench to the Bench, correct? Yeah.
And I wrote it for the public. It's written in layman's terms. So I describe and define whatever it is that's going on. And it gives you some sense of relaxation from the anxiety, because now you know what you could reasonably expect. And these are all based on real cases. I presided over 10,000 cases over my 10 years on the bench. And I can tell you that the book is written with stories, real stories, as to what happens in the system, not only in front of the scene, but behind the scenes, you know. So it's a great exposition, easy to read. And attached to the book on the appendix is is an opinion called Essex versus 5 Star, which is a California Supreme Court opinion that was my case before I was on the bench. And so we won and changed the law in California. That's an attachment to the book, as well as a process under the insurance code in California, Section 2071, that basically provides a process that streamlines your case. If you use it properly, you can get paid in a very short period of time, as opposed to waiting for the court system, which sometimes takes a couple of years. So that article that I wrote on the subject, which is basically how to use this process, is also an appendix to the book, and you can read the how to do it kind of thing. I don't give any legal advice because every case is going to be different, and I'm not hired by anybody. I'm just doing it. In fact,
I like the notion. I do like the notion of like, here, I'll say this in layman's terms so that you don't have to try and figure it out. Because if you are a law layman, like, here's what you should probably know. Here's a basic guide to it. Am I right about that? Or
well, legalese is something that lawyers use because it's intimidating, number one,
right?
And people don't understand, so therefore they think they need a lawyer. And in many instances, they don't. Like, I presided in small claims court for a couple of years, actually, and there's no lawyers there, and people get to tell their story. And that's a whole big difference.
And see, so explain small claims court. Like, is it like a Judge Judy situation?
It is.
Like,
it is Judge Judy.
Yes.
In fact,
somehow I know her. I used to hostess at a restaurant, and she came in all the time. What a lovely woman, number one. But yeah, wouldn't that be small claims court, I suppose?
Yeah, it is small claims court. In fact, it's really frontier justice with one person deciding and no lawyers, unless the lawyer is a party.
Okay.
And so they tell their story. And the problem is that the court is very busy. In fact, one day when I was sitting in Inglewood, I had 86 cases on my calendar. 86 cases.
So 86 cases, meaning like whatever that is times 2. These 2 people would come in, they tell you the story, and you make a decision. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's right.
Oh my God.
Well, sometimes I do my own investigation.
Yeah.
And sometimes I take them home and I do a little research, because you have to know a lot of things. Like, I had a dental malpractice case. I mean, I didn't know anything except you should brush your teeth. So the bottom line was, you do your own investigation and you make the decision. A lot of times, I'll give you this hint to all of you who are listening. You got to be precise, because you can get very little time.
Right.
Number 2, remember that you have what's called the burden of proof. You have to satisfy the court by what's called a preponderance of evidence. It's different than criminal, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. A preponderance of the evidence. And if the judge doesn't know, has uncertainty to that degree, then the decision is for the party who does not have the burden of proof. And I tell it to every litigant. In fact, I had a mediator assigned to my court, and John and I would talk about these cases, and he would settle a lot of them. But once the public knew what the likelihood was that they were going to win or lose. And I remember one case particularly, was a school that was being sued by the parents.
Oh no.
For return of tuition, because the kid wasn't doing very well in the school. And I said to them, look, go out in the hall, talk to John, who's the mediator. You come back and tell me, if you can't work it out, we'll try the case. No problem.
Right. And then it goes to a jury trial.
No,
right?
not in small claims.
No, not in small claims. Okay, then you try the case. But if it's
the bottom line, I want to finish the story. The story is They come in and they say they cannot settle it.
Oh no.
I decided the case in favor of the school because there was no contract that the school had to do A, B, and C, or whatever it was.
Right.
Now, I was told by my bailiff, who was in the hallway, and he was a little bit of a busybody. He came in and he said, you know what I heard them say? I heard that the school offered to give them back half. And they said, no, we want it all. And they got zero. And very little, and plaintiffs in small claims do not have the right of appeal, believe it or not. I'm talking California law. And so it's final. The defendants do have a right of appeal, and they can have a lawyer in the appeal process. And I was appointed to handle appeals as well during some portions of the time. And the reality is it's fast, it's cheap, and it's recoverable a lot better than it is if you're going to go through 2 years of a lawsuit and have to pay lawyers to do it.
Was that entertaining for you? Like, are these parents really going to sue this school for the tuition costs because their kid is dumb? Like,
no, they did sue. That's what small claims is. It's a regular lawsuit.
But yeah, I mean, yes, of course they were suing him, or else he wouldn't be there. But were you thinking in the back of your mind, like, you know, get him a tutor? If you have money to pay the tuition, get him a tutor. Is it really the school's fault? Like, is it entertaining for you, or do you must be like a really good person? Because I would be sitting there like, is this really necessary?
I got to tell you, it was the best job I ever had. I loved it. I truly loved it. I had great story. I had a restraining order case where somebody was trying to get a restraining order against their next door neighbor because the parrot that they had in the kitchen was making too much noise. I'll never forget this. I was in Long Beach at the time for this case. And I said, you know what? This is very easily settlable. Move the parrot to the other side of the house. End of the story. People come with the most crazy stories about the most crazy subjects. But to answer the question about entertaining, I'm not there to be entertained, number one. I don't allow my personal feelings, even if I like or don't like somebody. And in regular court, whether I like or don't like the parties or their lawyers, never comes into play. I once found in favor of a lady who attacked the bench.
Right.
The bailiff had to grab her when she was coming to the bench. But she was right, and I ruled in her favor.
Was the parrot in the courtroom?
No, I'm not going to tell the story twice. That'd be parodying it. You know, no.
Maybe they were just like, the parrot was telling all of the neighbors secrets or something. Was it like?
Oh, I had cases where people were throwing rocks at each other. But I also had some very serious cases in restraining order where I had people with guns and weapons and things of that nature. That made it pretty serious.
Yeah. I heard that restraining orders are your specialty. And you shot a pilot like in the it was like one of those shows, wasn't it? Like I forget how Lainey put it, but it was about restraining orders.
Yeah, well, I wrote an article on it on the subject, which it pretty much goes through it all. And restraining orders are a different subject because every state is different, and some states have them, some don't. Some of them tie them directly to family law matters. And because we were going to do domestic violence cases as well as regular harassment cases, I had to be certified by the family court, which I was. And so there are different types, different burdens of proof. For the domestic violence, the burden is less, believe it or not, than for harassment. The burdens of proof for harassment are what's called clear and convincing evidence, which is halfway between preponderance and beyond a reasonable doubt, and domestic violence, which is simple preponderance. And there are avenues for people to get emergency issues. People always ask me if I think it makes any difference, a restraining order makes any difference. And I'll bet you people out there think about it, because you hear stories where somebody does something terrible and you find out there was a restraining order on them. The question is, do they really pay any attention to it?
Right.
And the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no.
You know, I had a certain I always thought it because I wasn't, I had a domestic violence issue. And the moment I was in a terrible relationship, the guy ended up, he pled guilty and the 10, order of protection, all that, whatever. But it was what I loved about New York was when he had broken my wrist, and when I had the guts to finally I just walked to the police station and just told them immediate order of protection. I just brought them the evidence. It was all of that. I wonder, does it differ? And then of course he had, his trial and whatever, but New York, I loved, they didn't want to involve me in it to the best of their ability whatsoever, because it was domestic and it was so very clear what had happened. I wonder, does that differ from state to state?
It does.
Yeah, because not to say thank God it happened in New York, but I wonder in other states that they're like, well, what was going on or what have you. But I brought them, like, this is what happened. And I'm lucky in that sense because, an order of protection. I mean, I never heard from that person again, thankfully. But I wonder what the California laws are on that. Like, do you see any other states that you're like, they could do a little bit better on this? Or
I think it's philosophical to some degree. And keep in mind, again, I'm talking California law.
Right.
There's two remedies for violation of the restraining order. And then I'll tell you a story. The two are, you can be arrested because it's a court order that they're violating. Once I sign it, they got to turn over their guns and their ammunition, and there are certain restrictions. If you violate, it's a crime, and you could be charged as another criminal violation, or they can be held in contempt for violating the order. And I used to threaten people all the time if I had a second person to come in the first time. But the orders are reviewable, the modifiable. And I remember this case. There was a male and a female doctor working together at a clinic. And he was older, and he was harassing her. And a prior judge had granted a temporary restraining order, which I saw in the file. But I conducted the trial, and I found that he was basically doing what she was claiming he was doing. And I issued the final order. And about 3 months later, my clerk said that they were outside. They wanted to talk to me. They together. So I said, okay, well, what do they want? They just want to see you. Okay. So I put the robe on and go out, whatever. And they said they had worked it out between them. And because it's a matter of public record, he didn't really want, he was a practicing physician. He didn't want to have it on his record. And normally it's not expungible. In other words, it's there for life. And in fact, if you want to go to Canada and there's a restraining order on your record, they won't let you in. I mean, it's job, people look up, it's a matter of public record. This is a very serious situation. But I'll tell you the story. And it's a famous lawyer. She's on everything. All of a sudden, her name skipped her name. Who's the most famous woman lawyer that's always fighting for women's rights? Gloria Allred.
Oh, okay.
Gloria Allred came in to get a restraining order against somebody who was calling her every day.
Oh, okay.
Every day, harassing her every day. And I listened to all of the material, and I granted the order. So he was restrained. About 6 months later, I ran into her lawyer, who I knew before anyway, a partner in her law firm. I said, what happened, Michael? What happened with the order? She said, the day you issued it and it was served, he stopped. So sometimes it works.
Yeah.
I've had people with threatening with guns and the like. Sometimes it works. Sometimes people are so insane, they do whatever they do. In fact, it's quasi-criminal. And I said to this one guy, and I'll never forget this. I said to him, "Is there a criminal case pending?" His lawyer says, "Yes, there is." I said, "Let me just tell you that if you testify here, you will be waiving your Fifth Amendment rights. And it's usable by the district attorney's office." And I know that because I used to be a deputy district attorney myself.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I said to him, "You really want to do that?" It was
Right.
a rape of a 6-year-old girl. And I said, "You really want to testify?" "Yep, he wants to testify." Okay. Obviously, I issued the order, but the fact of the matter is, people treat this differently. Domestic
Yeah.
violence cases are very, very different than plain old harassment.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it's a way, I think, to control some gun situations.
Mm-hmm.
Restraining order should be provided to law enforcement to kind of like a red light warning. In fact, I discussed that with former sheriff of Los Angeles, Lee Baca. He said they just don't have enough money to enforce it. It happens and they just slap them on the wrist or whatever. And the court's so busy, it's hard to do. In fact, I was telling the story about 86 cases. I called the presiding judge. I said, "What are you doing? I can't do 86 cases." "Oh, we made a mistake. We took 2 days and put them into one." But you get
Right.
5,
Are
10
you
minutes to
supposed
best.
like, do you get the cases the night, like for civil court or whatever, the 86 cases, do you get them the night before you kind of, and
I
then
get them when they walk in.
when they walk in, and
I
then you're
wasn't very prompt to begin with, but when I got there, the files were all piled up. Now, in regular civil litigation, in the called unlimited jurisdiction, the clerk would put the files up the day before, and she'd line them up all along the windowsill. And I came in one day and I saw one file was about 1.5 feet thick. I can't read this in 15 minutes and be ready to go out there and take care of the
what do
calendar.
you think I am? Like, I'm not a robot. Like, what? How could I possibly do this? Like,
Well,
and make an honest.
you have to know the system. The real point is you have to know how it goes. When are they going to do it? How they're going to do it? What do the judges think? I once said to a judge colleague of mine, actually it was the PJ in Lancaster, he was back there without his jacket on. We didn't wear jackets. And he had a gun strapped to his waist. And I said to him, "Bill, what are you?" "We're in Lancaster, man. We got to protect ourselves." In fact, they didn't let us go out of the building. They made us eat there was a separate room in the cafeteria for us.
Oh, what?
And so a lot of things happen you're not aware of.
No, definitely not. Right. And you can only make, and you've tried over 10,000 cases, like,
No, not tried, presided.
or, right.
Many of them are very, very short.
Provided.
Some of them were just a continuance. That took me 30 seconds, yes or no.
Right.
But some of them actually were trials all the way to the end.
Okay, so here's my next question. Is there any situation where you thought, like, are you the guy? I mean, obviously, I guess you are. You decide if it is a trial case, like with a jury and everything. You decide
Sometimes.
what the, or maybe not every time, but what the punishment or what I don't know how to put it. What
Well,
the sentence is, right?
You have to separate the criminal from the civil. It's very,
Right.
very different.
Very
And
different.
What happens is, for the public to know, and that's one reason why you should have a lawyer, they're called pretrial motions. A motion is a request of the court to do or not to do something. And they file what they call motions in limine for us to decide in advance whether evidence is going to come in or it's not going to come in. And that way they winnow down the issues to make it shorter if they can. And so the rulings oftentimes get cases settled. I obviously can't go into all of it here, but there are things called summary judgment, which ends a case before it goes to trial.
So is there something to be said? Like, people always say, they don't want it to go to trial. They would like to just because it costs a lot of money to go to a criminal trial with a jury and all that stuff. So Is there something to be said for, yeah, everybody would just rather it not get to that point. So they're just trying to rush you out of the room, whether it be the government or, the lawyers or, what's better for everyone,
There are so many elements that go into that.
Way too
that
many.
it's hard to kind of compartmentalize it and put it into one. But
Yeah.
the way the system works is what I wanted to do when I wrote the book.
That's
And
what I was going to
you
say.
get a
Yeah.
pretty good. In fact, I have a whole chapter on restraining orders in there. I think it's chapter 3.
Restraining orders. Yes.
Yeah.
So I love that. It's your specialty, the restraining orders. Have you ever had to file a restraining order for, say,
Personally?
not giving someone a restraining order? Or have you ever had to file a restraining order?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No. I'm married to the same woman 47 years. We're pretty
I was
good.
going to ask about your love life as well. So no, but what you would say is that it's typically between lovers and or people in relationships, or is it I want to file a restraining order against just some man that actually being a public person. People often probably file restraining orders over like crazy people.
They come in on business.
Yeah.
Come in on business issues all the time and threats.
Yeah.
There's a real big issue that I addressed in the article I wrote on it between free speech and restraining people from having what's called prior restraints. And I did have cases, and I did decide cases where there was a threat to the community versus just complaining about things and threatening in the abstract. And so for us, you really have to look at the case in a very hard way to see if there's a free speech violation. I know I did grant it sometimes.
Right.
A lot of times I didn't either, because they fight with each other. People fight, and fighting doesn't bring you to the court. Shouldn't bring you to the court. And
no, especially right.
That's
unless it's a domestic violence issue. And again, like I said, in New York, I mean, they did everything to keep me out of that situation because it was domestic, right? But yes, people fight, but you should be able to use your words and come to some sort of understanding if you're rational. Although some people aren't always rational, right?
Oh, believe me, I heard stories.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. I mean, I heard stories that actually I would laugh at, and I did internally. So what the hell are they doing here? And there is kind of like a buffer in California, because generally people seek temporary restraining orders, and we don't see anything, we don't hear anything other than what the complainant, it's called the petitioner, is claiming. So you have no idea what they're talking about, whether it's true or not. And you read the stories and you either grant it or not. And if you grant it, it's good until you have a hearing, which is usually 15 days later. And so the end result is you read some fantastic stories. Fantastic.
I'm sure it must be such an interesting job. Again, you guys, you can find this book on Amazon, From the Trench to the Bench. Everyone go there now and buy it. I know I'm buying it. And then also the audiobook version is coming out soon, correct?
Yes, it is. In fact, I should mention that a lot of people experience DUI cases.
Ooh, tell us about it.
I have a chapter on it, what to do. Do you need a lawyer, et cetera, because that has some serious ramifications.
This is a funny thing.
People don't need a lawyer.
Right. People, like, I've never had a DUI situation, or I had a couple of underage drinking tickets. I was going to ask you about that, but really, I mean, I'm 32. It was many years ago, but they always say, people in South Carolina, they're like, you never blow. Don't say nothing. Don't do anything. What is your advice to somebody that gets pulled over that knows they've had a bit too much to drink?
Well, it becomes a case-by-case basis.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that blowing, you can call it blowing, it's one of 3 alternative methods in California You don't blow in the street. And if you do, there's a machine that measures the alcohol in your breath.
Right.
But there are also the Department of Motor Vehicle issues that go along with it, losing your license and whatever. And so you do have to take one of those 3 tests or your license is automatically suspended. And the chances are you're going to get convicted. What I included in the book was a form called a waiver, where you can waive whatever rights you have in exchange for a pre-designed plea. And that's what they do. I remember when I was a DA coming in, we had 110 cases on the calendar for 2 of us or 3 of us. And the judge called us in and said, get out there and settle them. So a lot of those drunk driving cases ended up as reckless driving, or we used to call wet reckless, because we just didn't have the ability to keep trying all these cases. So I have a waiver form in the book. It's a California waiver, obviously. It's called a toll waiver. And do you need a lawyer? Sometimes you don't. If you blow a 2.0, no matter what, putting aside the really technical issues concerning the machine or otherwise, lawyer's not going to make any difference in your life unless it's a second offense. You might as well do it yourself. Walk in, talk to the DA or the city attorney, and see if you can get it resolved on your own. You probably don't need to spend money on a lawyer.
And typically, if it is the first offense of a DUI, wouldn't they be like, okay, yeah, we can knock it down, just be honest, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose when I was a calendar deputy in the court,
you've lived such a life. Let me just say, this is fascinating.
We could have a good time talking about myself. I don't want to be that immodest.
Yes. No, you honestly, you really have you've done everything. I feel like I've done nothing when I hear you talk. But go ahead. What were you?
But I'm older, so it's cool. But the reality is,
years older than Gino, probably. So,
just a couple. The end result is that the judicial system is not always fair. It oftentimes favors people who have the ability to do things that people who don't have the money or ability to do. And the haves will beat the have-nots more often than not. And I used to have people come in on serious matters and didn't have a lawyer. And one very fast story. Very famous person, basketball player, had all the rings, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
He had a $7 million house, and the bank was foreclosing on him.
Okay.
And so I remember coming out, seeing his name on the sheet calendar, no lawyer. So I said to him, "You have a lawyer?" No. And
he wanted to represent himself.
Said, he had a defense. He really had a defense. He didn't ask for it. I can't give him advice. I couldn't do that. But I knew he had a shot of winning this thing. All he had to do was raise it. So I said to him, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. I'm going to stay the execution of the order of possession. Come back in 2 weeks. I suggest you talk to a lawyer. I was trying to help him to find some representation. Came back 2 weeks later, no lawyer. Didn't change anything in his answer. I couldn't do anything for him. I wanted to, and I was a big fan of his, by the way, when he was playing. I said, I can't do anything. He ended up losing his $7 million house.
Oh.
And because he was unrepresented. Anybody who really had experience in that situation would have raised it. And he did.
Yeah,
that was one of the reasons I was writing the book. Because I said to myself, people who are unrepresented, it's that old phrase, he who represents himself as a fool for a client. And that happens sometimes. Lawyers are absolutely necessary.
Tell the truth, because he wasn't a lawyer or something. He was a basketball player. He was like, I'll just tell the truth. I don't need a lawyer. And then it didn't work out for him. Like, is that what the case is? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that if he had raised this defense, I probably would have ruled in a fashion that he could have stayed there for a couple of years.
Right.
He had that defense available to him. He just didn't know it.
Oh.
And after the case was over, at the end of the day, we had a separate entrance, because we had a separate entrance. So I go outside, and there he is standing there. And he's a big, tall guy. He says, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "No, I can't, because I cannot have what's called an ex-party communication. Both sides have to be present. I can't
Right.
talk to you." So I said, "But I'll tell you what, I'll give you one piece of advice. This is not final. You have a right of appeal. Talk to a lawyer."
Mm.
And
Did he?
I have no idea.
Oh, I hope.
Great story. I mean, these stories are phenomenal. I love these stories. That's
It's
why I
awesome.
didn't really want to retire. But
You need
know.
to, we have a question for you, but also I have a couple other things. Aaron James, is there a limitation on cases an individual can seal and expunge? And
yes,
yes.
well, when I was sitting in what they call unlawful detainer court, which is evictions and foreclosures and stuff like that, what I would do upon request was I would seal the record.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that if they were trying to find a new apartment someplace, that new person wouldn't know about them being kicked out before. So you can seal things. There's a code section that allows you certain discretion on those instances. As far as expungement, there's specific statutory provisions in California that allows a party that's been convicted, after a certain period of time and conditions are met, can go back into court and make what's called a motion. And we have the ability then to change their plea or the conviction down to a misdemeanor and dismiss it. So the record will show that at some point in time, it was a misdemeanor and it was dismissed. And if anybody really wanted to look behind everything, they could see what happened previously. But yes, under certain circumstances, there are abilities to either expunge or seal.
I have so I don't want to take up I don't want to hijack your entire evening, but I have two other, I have a wealth of questions here, but what's on my mind is, have you ever, do you know any of the law tubers? Do you know what law tube is?
No.
Okay, there's these YouTubers that are also lawyers, and they talk about cases on YouTube about, like, say, the Johnny Depp trial and the Amber Heard trial or what have you, and they'll sit there and cover it. Honestly, you should do something like this. There's this certain law tuber that just today, it has been, I don't know, maybe a year-long thing. His name is Nick Rekieta. He became famous on YouTube. He was a lawyer in Minnesota and became famous on YouTube from covering the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, and then the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. He just sat there, and since he had law knowledge, sat there and, made shit tons of money from just commenting on it, which back in the day, that was like very good for him. He, over the past year, maybe year and a half, got into a bunch of trouble with he has 5 children. He came off as like this sort of traditional father, and he ended up getting into some choice substances, and they found, like, the body cam footage never came out. This is making this story very short, because if you looked into it, Judge, it's a soap opera. It's absolutely insane. But one of his children, so the children got taken away for a little bit because they found one of them, the 9-year-old, tested positive for cocaine in her hair. Can you tell me, like, if there's any possibility that could be? He was saying no, that never happened. The police officers, there was cocaine in the air, maybe, or they touched her head or something. Like, as a judge, would you say that's bullshit? Like, that's insane. Just be a good dad, stay off of drugs. Or would there have had to have been a situation where she ingested it somehow.
Well, the
If that
first
makes
thing you
sense.
have to remember is we are not generally the triers of fact.
Right.
It's a jury issue. We only decide issues of law. However, in sentencing, you may consider, because what we generally do is the lawyers for the people and the lawyer for the defendant will file a pre-sentencing memorandum.
Mm-hmm.
What they'll put in that memorandum is the life story of, some people are more dramatic than others. And you think about it, because you also get at the same time, the probation department on all cases, the probation department will submit a report with a recommendation.
Right.
So you look at the recommendation, and it may say whatever it says, but factually, if it's a factual issue, it's the believability, unless it's so outrageous and you can use your discretion, generally speaking, it's a fact for the jury to determine.
Ah, okay. Well, here's another thing. So today he pled guilty for, I think, 3rd-degree drug use felony, whatever, what have you. But he's had his kids back for a long time. So what I wonder is, and I wonder how he's had his kids back for a long time. I wonder how that piece gets let go. Maybe something was, not correct about a drug test or what have you, but the kids are back. They've been back, but now he's his wife and his girlfriend, their charges are dropped, but he has 3rd-degree felony. He pled guilty to 3rd-degree felony drug charges, as far as I'm not concerned, as far as I know. That just came out today. But the sentence I think I read in Minnesota is, no one seems to think on LawTube he's going to get any time in prison, which I hope that he doesn't. He's a father and a person and made some mistakes, and if he stays on the right path, that'll be great. But I wonder how, if you just drag things out for longer and longer, like do things just get forgotten, or could he be facing some serious, in your opinion, like, if just from what I told you, do you think he could be facing serious no one seems to think he's going to get jail time, but from what I've heard from the other law tubers, that they're going to defer the case if he does what they say, then, and maybe do a drug program, or stay on the straight and narrow, then they could drop the charges entirely.
What we can do is we can have what's called deferred entry of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows a defendant to keep going without the judgment being yet pronounced. If it's a violation of any of the terms and conditions, the judgment then becomes the judgment. And it's really a matter of choice. And a lot of times people are accused of things and they're found not guilty. And on the jury form, by the way, people really don't know this. It doesn't say innocent. It says guilty and not guilty. Those are the only two choices you have. It doesn't say innocent. It's guilty or not guilty. And if they're not guilty, what it means is the prosecution has failed to satisfy the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And if people want to talk about what happened to them and they were acquitted or the case was dismissed, and that happens too, sometimes cases are not even filed. The deputy who reviews the files, which I did also, is basically looks and sees whether or not you can prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt. You file it or you don't. Sometimes you say to yourself, I think it looks good, but I can't prove it because it's missing A, B, and C. So that's a discretionary call made by the DA's office. But the reality is the burden of proof is many times, in fact, people will always ask me, why didn't the defendant put on a defense? Some of these cases, they don't put on a defense. Say, how could you represent somebody as a defendant, a criminal defendant, and not put on a defense? Well, the answer is you don't have one. And the real reason is that you just argue the failure of the prosecution to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt by creating doubt. And that's done by the cross-examination and the work that you do on that side. before, but this system cannot be identified and put all together in an hour or whatever. There's volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes. In fact, that's what I said recently. I just want to
It's such a giant like case or whatever. It's been going on for forever, and everybody's just been like fascinated by it. That was it's just been so long that I just wonder, okay, wow, what happens now? Does if they defer the yes, I pled guilty. All right, fine. Even though I denied and denied and denied, at least my loved ones get off scot-free. And do I just have to do what they say, or and then it'll all be forgotten? Or is there a chance like it's they're going to be like, you know what, you owe a fine, or you have to do time or something like that? But again, from what I told you, and please, Judge, don't look it up because you will be fascinated and you'll never be able to look away. It's that crazy. But I always wonder, because he is a lawyer. He knows how the legal system works. But it's just been the wildest thing to see. So,
well, everybody's got a story, and it's all about perception anyway.
Mm-hmm.
People are presumed, even though they're presumed to be innocent, that really doesn't work. If you really don't know the practicality of it, people always say, if he didn't do it, they wouldn't have charged him.
Right.
Well, I've seen police misconduct over the years on all sides. And it's an element that has to be considered. But I wanted to say this too about the fires, that I want to help the public. And I'm happy to answer questions without fees to anybody who's got a situation that they need some. I can't give legal advice, but I can give you the process and answer some questions without actually being your lawyer. But
I love
if they want
that.
to contact me, it's just ask Judge Herb at gmail.com.
Okay, that is such a
No cost.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to give you a real long anything, but I just want to try to relieve some of the anxiety and the stress, and more important, the uncertainty. So if you know what you're facing going in, you deal with it, I think, a lot better than the uncertainty of what's going to happen to me next. And so I'm happy to do that. I was very pleased that the law business was very good to me and our family. And it's got to be a time when you give it back, so.
You are such a kind, wonderful human being. I mean, that is, again, Judge Herb at gmail.com. Judge Herb, what was it? Say it again. I could put it in the thing.
I think it's Ask Judge Herb.
Ask Judge Herb.
At gmail.com.
So I'm posting it
I
as.
thought you want to see some of these. You can go on my website, which is Dodell Law. I think I gave it to you before. DODELLLAW.net. And you can see the interviews. I've interviewed Bobby Kennedy. I've interviewed Roger Stone a half a dozen times. Alan Dershowitz. They're all up there. So if anybody really wants to hear some great stuff, free, go on the website and take a look.
Let's pull it up right now. Yes, DodellLaw.net. Yes, absolutely. I'm pulling this up right now just for everyone to see. You are, we could get into so much more. I might ask you a couple other questions. I don't want to keep you for forever. There you are. Look at that.
Yeah, that was taken in Calabasas.
Yeah, handsome man. Calabasas like the Kardashians.
That's an old picture, but thank you very much for that. That picture was taken by the court reporter.
I love that.
One day we were just sitting around. I said, you know what? I'd like that for my book, or something, a picture. She said, I'll take a picture of you. And that's the picture.
You're like a chic, fashionable judge. I know you all have to wear the same thing, but you're like, I'm a cool, fun judge.
Underneath the robe is short pants. So
is it really? That's something I should have asked myself. Like, what do you wear under the robe? Do you wear shorts?
By the way, and it's kind of kind of a throw on, but you can wear whatever you want. And
You're doing the
I
Lord's
did.
work.
I used to go to work with jeans all the time because nobody sees what's under the robe.
Right. You could, it doesn't matter what you wear under there. It's
true.
like who knows what a priest wears under its robes either, you know?
Well, there was a
Like,
great story about a female judge. I think her name was Noel. I don't know
yeah.
if she's around anymore. She used to come in pink outfits. And
Yeah.
she ended up getting removed from the bench, not because she was wearing pink, but she was kind of like a kooky lady. But she wore pink outfits. And if I tell
Oh
you
my
about a
God,
judge friend of
you
mine,
knew
if you go in his
the judge.
chambers, you think the hurricane took place in there. So
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting experience. I'm glad I did it.
I
And
love it.
I wouldn't mind doing it back again if I could do it. But
Absolutely.
there's the interview, by the way.
See, there you go. California wildfires, what you need to know, Attorney Jeff Nugent. And then you can listen now here. AI for adult creators. Yeah, you have everybody go to this website, take a look at what he's got, download or order his book on Amazon, From the Bench to the Trench, everyone.
Trench to the bench.
Trench to the bench, excuse me. Yes, the bench is the right. And so the trench is a lawyer, bench is the you're a
The other
judge.
side.
You got Kumi on there. Look at that. How fun. Everybody go take a
I did an
look.
interview with Greg Kelly the other day, as a matter of fact.
Oh my
the fourth or
gosh.
fifth time from Newsmax. He's a nice guy.
Ooh, oh my God. No, you have I mean, my God, what a life you've led.
So far.
You have so many stories. You could write 10,000 more books.
I didn't tell you half of it.
Exactly. If I need a divorce lawyer, could I ask you?
I don't do divorces, but
I'm just
I'd be
kidding.
happy to recommend
In
somebody.
front of my silly husband. You know him, right?
Besides, it's New York law anyway, so I wouldn't have a clue.
Exactly.
But the
I'm
reality
teasing.
is
I'm not going to divorce him. He's just a silly man. Look at him. Look at him go.
He's gay, but he has a special connection to classical music. There's many things that are interesting about him.
I'm just teasing. We love Eugene. How is it being on the show with Eugene? I've watched you on his program in Hot Water like many times, and I don't understand why you put up with him. You must have a sense of humor.
No, I enjoy doing these things because it's fun. There's no money in it or anything. I have no motivation other than to have a good time with it, and I do. And all these shows that I've done or the people that I've interviewed, I've learned something.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about a lot of subjects from people who have familiarity with that subject. It makes a big difference in your own growth.
It's true.
So anyway, thank you very much for having me as your guest. I hope I didn't bore you with all the stories.
Are you kidding me? This was riveting. One last question. Do you know anything about the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case? And if you don't, no, nothing. That's why I didn't email it. It's too much to look at, but I would love to have you back. And if you want to take a look at it, I would love to get your input on it because it's the new thing in the pop culture sphere as far as law. Let me make sure I have a couple super chats here. Let me make sure there's nothing for you. Okay, we have one more question. It was for $2. Do you mind, Judge? I know you probably.
No, I have no problem. Then it's waiting.
What's the most bizarre case you've presided over? Maybe the parrot one.
Oh God, there were so many. I'd have to think about that. I'm sorry I can't give you the off the top answer.
No worries. We'll save it
in
for
fact,
next.
I had so many of them, ranging anywhere from representing all the hookers on Sunset Boulevard, which I did for a number of years.
You are iconic. I love you. Oh my God.
I also represented Deep Throat, the movie.
That is so cool. Oh my
I
God.
also took Hugh Hefner's deposition. In fact, I bought my first house after Hugh Hefner's deposition. He settled the case that we had filed against him. I took his deposition, and I represented a lot of Motown stars. When I represented a lot of the celebrity type people when I was doing entertainment law. And
love
it's a great story. I represented some guys with the crooked noses who you didn't fool around with. I represented some of those guys. It was like Goodfellas. It was great.
Okay.
Interesting part of life.
I
And
love it.
great stories. It's been a pleasure.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You got to come back and talk about the deep throat case. That is absolutely
I just did the grand jury. I didn't do anything beyond that.
okay. Well, it's interesting enough. And I love celebrity law. Oh my gosh. Two more things. Let's see. Ryan Osterith, thank you for the $9.99. Can we ask the judge if he's a Freemason or member of a private society?
Well, I was a DeMolay, which was like a junior Mason when I was in
Okay.
high school.
Look
No
at that.
private societies, however.
Right. No.
And I'm not really political, by the way. I'm neither a
Me
Democrat
neither.
or a Republican. So this whole election thing was interesting, especially my interviews with Roger Stone and political
Yeah, I
people.
heard you interviewed Roger Stone. Yeah, it is funny. We have that in common, Judge. I'm apolitical. I just sort of I should be a judge. I take every situation one-on-one, and I think that's what makes me apolitical. So maybe I feel like you're like a little bit like that too.
But you got to listen. You have to be able to listen. People
Yeah.
always ask me if you decide the cases before viscerally, and the answer is never.
Right.
And you have to listen to both sides, even though
Mm.
one sounds so very convincing. Until you hear the other side, you can't make a decision without having both sides, and that's what we
You
do on
gotta
the
play
show,
your
by the
own
way.
devil's advocate. Gotta go, but what about this? Maybe this. Yeah, you have to. I think that if you are a judge, you pretty much have to be apolitical. So after comedy, I think I'm gonna go to judge school.
Well, let me tell you one last thing.
Yes,
Judges
please.
are very different. Some are good, some are not so terrific. Some of them are idiots. Some of my
Oh, no.
colleagues are brilliant. They've worked all night. Some of them didn't pay much attention. They were lazy, used a law clerk or whatever. You don't know who your judge is going to be if you're filing a lawsuit. And so that's the big gamble who you're going to get. It's like the chocolate, the box. You don't
You're
know
right.
what you're going to get. So beware.
Like a box of judges, you never know which one you're gonna get, right?
Especially in criminal cases. You need to know what the sentencing proclivities are. You do what they call forum shopping. You look to find the judge is going to be the most lenient if you're the defendant, and the prosecution, they want just the opposite. They want the hard-nosed sentences. That's the way it works. We kind of know each other, from whatever.
Right.
So that's it. Thank you for having me. Give my regards to Gino.
You are incredible. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. We've like cracked the surface of how interesting your life has been. So I would love to have you back on another time. Gino gives his regards as well. And to everybody, make sure you follow Judge Herb Dodell and follow him everywhere on social media and buy his book. And thank you so much, Herb. Thank you.
If you need any help, get in touch with me. I'll try.
I sure will.
Okay, you will now.
Take care,
Have a
love.
nice weekend.
God, I love him. I love him. Oh my God. How cool was he? I know I missed some of your questions. Man, the man can tell a story. Eugene?
Yes, baby.
He was amazing. We're on the phone with you. Were distracting me. I missed some of his I feel, what was it? Hello?
What? I'm sorry, what?
Who are you on the phone with?
Dombrowski just got past the cellar.
Oh God, it's amazing. Was I annoying you then during your phone call?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Good for Dombrowski. Aaron James, thank you for the $4.99. That's so cool. Count of the case. I'll have to ask him next time. Thank you, Aaron James. If the case deposition is dismissed or not guilty, can they be sealed or expunged immediately versus waiting years in CA? Thanks, Judge. Aaron, I will save it. I will write it down. I will archive it into my soul. And I will ask him next time. 100 million Kiki bucks for you and for everybody else that's super chatted. He was great. Oh my gosh. What an interesting human being. And I love that he's like, yeah, if you need any legal advice on this fire or what have you, God, I could talk to him all day long. All day long. I don't know. Let's see here. I was like, oh my gosh, do I need to, prepare with this silly? It makes me feel like, who cares about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni? He's like, I don't know anything about that. Good. No one should. Judges make good money. You don't have to have a law degree to be one. I want to be a judge now. I'm apolitical. I take every situation one-on-one. I would love to, like, oh my God. I know Judge Judy. And now I know Judge Herb Dodell. I'm basically in the running. I certainly am. Chris Thompson said, you can come out now, Gino. Oh my gosh. Don't forget about your presidential. Oh, yeah, I was going to be a president too. I think I could be either. Can I be a judge and a president at the same time? Well, if you guys want to know, wild. All right, I'm going to hang out just for a few more minutes. Breaking news. Yeah, I kind of tried to like ask him, like, what do you feel about this whole thing? He's like, I don't know what LawTube is, Keanu. Like, I figured you wouldn't. But yeah, breaking news. Rekieta pled guilty to third-degree drug felony charge, which that is what he should have probably done from the beginning. And I hope he's on the path to sanity. That makes me more proud of, not proud of him. Makes me hate him less than I've hated him in months. And I don't know him that well, but good for him. And look at that. If you know what I'm talking about, his wife and his girlfriend, their charges were dropped. So did it all need to be that serious? It was serious, but good for them. Good for them. Good. This was my favorite guest. Well done, Kiki. Thank you, McGuinevere. I love you. Very good. Wow, I could talk to him for hours. Unbelievable. Do you know what was next on my list? I was going to ask him about the Kardashians and Kim being a lawyer. He probably been like, why? Why would you do that? But I really had so much going on there. Who knew? Who knew? Okay, I want to be a judge now. I want to be a comedian and a judge. And again, you guys, go buy his book. I'm gonna buy it right now. He's doing the Lord's work here. Judge Herb Dodell, home. Look at him. Look at him. I cannot say nice enough things about this man. Look at him go. Podcast, blog, video, California wildfires, what you need to know. Listen now. Go read, get the book. Restraining orders, breaking news, helpful topics. And From the Trench to the Bench is the book. Get it on Amazon, and he is soon going to have an audio version of it. He is so cool. Look at Kumia. There he is. Wow. Roger Stone. Wild. Absolutely wild. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. I can't get enough. I just can't get enough. I want to hang out with you more, but that was just so lovely. I'd look cool in a judge's robe, wouldn't I? Why did he Michael in the chat? Maybe she didn't even watch. What's today? Friday. Brianna Jacobs has been covering Blake Lively. Oh yeah, I know. I told her it is so interesting. She was on Popcorn Planet, and one of my favorite oh my god, now I can't remember his name. She's been everywhere. It is so interesting. If you don't know about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, I was on the side of no one. Then I'm like, yeah, Blake, she could be whatever. But then she came out with that lawsuit for sexual harassment, and it's so crazy that I'm like, that you're like, oh my god, this director's an asshole. How dare he? But then he was like, bitch, I have receipts. So if you haven't known about it, or it is something to definitely spend your time watching, because who knows what's going to happen. And yeah, and Ari was on there going, you're right, Courtney. She was like, she said, yeah, this is the way that this works. It's like, she also sued the New York Times. By the way, nobody has won a case against the New York Times in I think 60 years or something, but Justin's doing it because without checking the facts, the New York Times did file a suit again, or not, posted this article about him when it was defamatory. And they just because the Blake Lively's and Deadpools of the world. I mean, who could go against them, right? How could they be wrong? Poor Justin Baldoni and his man bun. Huh. Right now, as it currently stands, I'm on Team Baldoni. I'm on Team that movie sucked horribly. It is the worst movie maybe ever. But I think I was poisoned by what I was watching before about how they didn't get along. I didn't think they had any chemistry. I didn't think that it was a fantastic look into the nature of domestic violence, only because maybe what was going on in the press. Although you guys know how much I talked about the Wicked press tour and how mentally insane that was. And I loved Wicked. So, rhinoceros. True or false? Does the Bar Association stand for British? The Bar Association for British Accredited Registrar. Does it? Bar. Does it? Alexa, what does the bar stand for? Where Keanu goes to hang out. What does bar stand for? She said. English custom. What does it stand for? The legal profession as an institution. Well, how does it? The term is a metonym. I've never heard metonym for the line or bar that separates the parts of the courtroom reserved for spectators. A metonym. Cool. What does metonym mean? A word or name or expression used as a substitute for something else, which is closely associated. For example, Washington is a metonym for the federal government of the U.S. True. Okay. All right. There you go, Ryan. Also, it's a metonym. God, it's a great word for it means when you say the bar, it meant the bar between, like in a courtroom, between it separates the judge, jury, and plaintiff and the defendant. Interesting. A metonym. So when you say, yeah, I'm down in Washington, you mean the federal government. I love that. There's somebody to play for the Mets. I think so, probably. That's not Eugene. Eugene's laying over there. That's interesting. A metonym. Oh my God, I had one more thing to tell you guys. I'm just so elated by the judge. Oh, come on, Kiki. What was it? The metonym. If you haven't seen Jim yet, here he is. Very exciting to meet Jim very soon. Jim is the new dog that my dad and I are getting for him. And the lady sent me a photo of him today. And he finally looks like maybe a dog. I can't wait to meet him and pick him up. Look at him. His name is Jim. Well, we named him Jim. He was boy number 2 first. Look at it. His name is Jim Ham Thompson. Isn't he something? Isn't he marvelous? I can't wait to meet him and snuggle him. Do you have any closing thoughts, Eugene? He just sighed. Eugene?
Yes, baby.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
I didn't have any opening thoughts.
Do you think I did a good job with the judge?
He's great.
I could talk to him for hours.
I didn't notice till halfway through he wasn't using his picture. I mean, he was only using audio.
He was probably just like, get me out of here. I want to eat my dinner. I'm trying to hang out with my wife. God, I love him.
How did Mr. Polk about that?
How is it, poor little guy? No, he's a cute little boy. We're gonna treat him so good. Yeah, in February, I will be in South Carolina streaming from Mike Lean's studio and the studio that I have in my father's house and taking care of Jim Ham. And we're gonna pick him up and maybe we stream on the way. And then you can see Harmon as well, my other Dougie. Can't wait. Cannot wait. He looks terrified. Well, wait till he's in my arms. Then he'll be more terrified. He's too cute. Too cute. Jim Ham Thompson. Very exciting. 10:47. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We've done it all. We've said it all. We know it all. I would get into what I know about, not what I know. I mean, do we really care about, all right, yeah, Rekieta pled guilty. Which good for him. I think he's finally on the road to. And thank God that he saved the other humans involved in his life. That's good. Yes. Thank God. They they deserved to have their charges dropped. As far as I know, that is very, very nice. I really have nothing other to say other than that. I'm just so elated by the judge. So, and a metonym is my favorite new word. It's a metonym. I do love that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I have nothing else planned. It's not normal that I stream on Fridays, but maybe I'll make it a new thing. Maybe it'll be Kiki Live Guest Fridays. What you do have to look forward to is if you are in the New York area, come out to Rodney's Comedy Club on Sunday and see me perform along with Eugene and Larry Bea and Kristen Carney and all matter of other comedians. We're very excited about that. Very excited indeed. So please come, buy tickets now. And if you're not subscribed here, please get subscribed. It's rude to watch and not subscribe. And if you haven't listened to the newest Keanu cast, you must be a member if you want to watch it. So become a member if you want to watch it on YouTube. But you can find Keanu Cast wherever you find your podcasts. Again, that is Keanu Cast.
Something untoward. No, fully untoward.
So come on out and see me. Okay. And you guys are the Eel's Hips, the Cat's Pajamas, and the Bee's Knees. Subscribe, hit the like button, listen to Keanu Cast, download it. It's a magnificent show. We cover all the bases. We do everything fun and silly. And you guys know you love Michaeline. So 100 million Kiki bucks for everyone that tuned in. You know what? I'll do something radical. I'll do 200 million. And 1,000 Kiki.
Wow.
And you guys are the Eel's Hips, the Cat's Pajamas, and the Bee's Knees. I will see you on Sunday if you're in the New York area, or else on Monday for either Kiki in the morning or Keanu Live. Take care, everyone.